All right, before we continue, would you like to thank Mary for the mediumship?
Oh.
Now, if you're offended, you never do that for me.
Yes.
Well, that was all a bit fake. Had to ask you for it. No.
They can't win.
Yeah, they can't win. Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it, being able to talk with spirits and get their perspective of things, and also to understand the ramifications of an earth life versus what happens afterwards and things like that. And, you know, this is why Mary and I enjoy it so much, because it's a lot of the people who come to us in the spirit world are ready to make a change. You know, they've gone through a long period of what do I do, where do I go? They're so desirous of a conversation, even if they feel angry. So remember our Muslim brothers and sisters who came, they were a bit angry with me, feeling offended. But even that gives us the opportunity to have a conversation that can often lead to change. And remember our Christian sisters who came, the nuns, Violetta, who came. She was also quite upset. You know, not necessarily with me in her case, but she was pretty upset. But that also gives us an opportunity to have a conversation. And so we enjoy talking to groups of spirits of all backgrounds and types because of that, because you get the opportunity to have conversations with them that sort of also help us to appreciate the lives that other people have and how bad certain things are happening on earth that we might have personally been in denial of because we've lived our own life, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's very important for us to all at some point get some level of compassion for people's lives, you know. I know there's a lot of bad things going on the earth, and it seems a lot of people are turning to violence and other things like that. But you also can have compassion for what's led to these things. You know, what kind of circumstances, situations have gotten people to the point where they feel they need to revert to violence rather than solve their problems using other methods. And also the lack of education. On earth, it's just intense, the lack of education about future life, you know, and the different things that go on with future life. And so we're hopeful that doing these mediumship things in front of you sort of widen your education is really the point of them. Yeah. Besides the fact that we love talking to our spirit friends and love being able to help people whether they're in the spirit world or here. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what we'd like to do now is we've got, about 40 minutes?
Probably half an hour
Half an hour.
Yeah.
Bit of half an hour to answer any questions you have about what we're going to be doing in the future. Mary and I, after this group, we've got a lot to pack up. And I think, do we have to be out by 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a fairly short... It took us nearly 6 hours to set it up. And we've got 3 hours to pack it up. So we're going to be...
It's doable.
Yeah. We'll do that. But that generally means that we're pretty busy after the session's finished. So now's your opportunity, right now, to ask the questions. But before you do, we'd like to just say to you what our plans that we said might change with or without notice are currently. So is that all right with you? So you know what's happening? G'day.
So we should say we'd like to thank actually someone called David who helped to fund this whole trip that we're doing this
He paid
time.
for our whole trip.
He made a significant donation to pay for this trip. So we must thank him. And, you know, he's not even attending any of the talks.
Yeah. He's a friend of ours, but not attending. Either talks.
So he just really wants everybody else to know this truth. So that's a really lovely gift. But moving forward, we can't rely on David to fund all of our trips. So part of the reason why these plans are aspirations and not concrete yet is that they do depend a little on our ability to fund them next year and the following. Yeah.
So they're just ideas at the moment of what we feel we'd like to be able to do, and based on whether you'd like it is probably whether it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, you might not like our idea.
Yeah.
And
generally, I must say, you probably would like a bit of background about donations and whatever that we receive. What generally happens in a group like this is we receive generally enough donations to cover the hall and around about half of our accommodation. All the other donations that we get are mostly from individuals who have a bit more funds, who give us donations to cover any shortfalls we may have. Does that make sense? So what would be lovely if more people could share the cost of something rather than a few people only doing it. But you can see that also happens, though, because of their appreciation. Does that make sense? Their appreciation for it. Many of the donations we get come from people in Australia because they get a bit more regular ability to see us, and we get more, we have regular chats with people there. And so many of them feel a deeper appreciation for the truth, and that's why they want you to have the same experience. So many of people who donate to help us to do these trips don't actually benefit from the trip, in terms of, aside from the fact that we do recordings and they eventually get to see them, of course.
And some of them expressed some really lovely feelings as we were leaving.
Yeah.
Just their excitement for you to hear more truth.
Yeah, many of them feel like they'd love to give you all a hug and say, we want to get to know you and things like that. Obviously, many people who listen to Divine Truth around the world feel that way when they meet up with a group, get to know different people. And you can see from this group, there's such a wide variety of people, isn't there? From all walks of life, all types of individuals. You wouldn't normally get together, would you, with each other? And so it's really interesting. We find how the wide variety of individuals and situations and people that come to the groups. And we don't always see them again. Sometimes, some groups we've had 120, 150 along. Next year we had 7, in the same location. And other groups we have, like many of you we've seen last year, right? So some groups there's more, some groups there's less.
And can I thank you for your attendance?
Yeah.
We had really very few people who booked who didn't come
Remember last time we came, there was almost 30% didn't come to the groups in England. This time
there was 5 or 6 people who had a ticket who didn't come.
So that's much better.
That's great.
So compliment you on your loving behaviour.
Yeah.
You probably, just as a general ballpark, we thought that you might want to know what a trip like this costs. Is that reasonable? So what we're finding, I don't know if you've noticed lately, but a lot of people are being things out to others, aren't they? They're sort of getting a house to rent it out, to Airbnb it out. And as a result, what we're finding is the general cost of hiring a place now is like getting quite exorbitant, really, compared to what you get. And so because we travel with a lot of gear, we need a place to put the gear. We have to set up an office when we're travelling because we have every night we have to copy off 4 terabytes around about of data. And that takes quite a few hours. And usually I do it overnight as well, but I have to do a process. And so Mary and I generally every night we go home. Mary handles, like I said, the cooking and those kind of things, and I'm into the tech, which I hate, but anyway, I'm in it. And what I do is unload everything, back it all up, make duplicate copies of it, and when we leave each country, we send 1 copy back home straight away so that we know that we're not going to lose that on the rest of the trip. Because to us, these groups with you are precious because not only we're sharing truths with you, but we now, through you, because of your attendance, have the ability to share truths with other people who have the same questions and same desires. So to us, the groups and the information we gather at them, the recordings are very precious. So we've had to spend quite a lot of funds trying to make that happen and condense it all down into 2 yellow bags. Well, it's actually not 2. This year we had to get 2 extra bags. So we got 2 yellow bags. We have our clothes bags, which are 2 bags. And then we have these 2 other bags, which are tech bags too, which are carry-ons. And then we have our 2 backpacks, which we carry on as well. And so that's what we travel with. And so it's a bit of a palaver, travelling palaver, meaning it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest.
It's a lot to organise. There's a lot to organise. Get through baggage,
and all that stuff. Get through. And also we have our carnet, which is a passport for gear. We arrange our own passport, but every year we have to arrange a new passport for the gear. And so that takes a fair bit of time. You have to list every item. We have nearly 1,000 items in our pack, in our 2 gear. And every single item is put on the list, and then it's approved, and you pay insurance on it and all those other things. So there's a lot of ancillary costs to the way we travel versus if you went on a holiday. Does that make sense? So we're really doing what I suppose you'd classify as a business trip. So the business trip includes the flight, obviously, the accommodation, the venue, the equipment, and the transport.
And the food, probably.
And the food.
While we're there.
We find our food costs go through the ceiling when we're travelling.
Not because we eat more.
Not because we eat more. Although last year we did eat more.
No, we did eat more last year.
We did eat more.
We were so tired
we got home and it took us 6 months to work off what we ate. We said, right, we've got to become dedicated to the 10k a day pretty much. Otherwise we're stuffed. And we're stuffed like literally. Okay, so generally what happens with the finding accommodation, so these are Australian dollars, by the way, which are like half your pounds. So I think at the moment it's less than a half, actually. I think one of your pounds is worth $2.10 Australian or something like that. But accommodation is, on the average, costing us $400 a night. Right? There's all sorts of reasons why that is the case, but the major one is finding accommodation where you have a long, like a month or 3 weeks. And also we try to set up accommodation where we can have people visit us, in the sense of like if we have to have a small group there. We still haven't found the ideal accommodation either, but we ideally, in this coming week, we're going to have to hire a 30 room or 30 people hall here or something like that for our little get-together Wednesday. We would like that to happen in our home, because then we could invite you over as guests, do it in a home. But it's pretty hard in England to find such a home. We did try last year, but nobody would have us really, as it worked out. We tried about 30 or 40 different places.
We tried sort of, how in England there's a lot of barn conversions.
Barn conversions, and we thought that'd be ideal.
But they wanted us to be hens or bucks parties, or, they didn't want to rent to a spiritual group.
Yeah. I think primarily us, but anyway. So what we're finding is that, a lot of people don't want to rent to us as well, because of who we're saying we are. They have an offence to that, so, that gets a bit, so we have to let them know.
That's less of an issue with accommodation, more with venues.
But it's also a problem with the comms. So. Yeah. Okay, so with the venues, we try to get a venue. What we're working towards is a venue that is like around about, in every country, we'd really like one around about the sort of 200-seat mark to allow for us to just go there every year and not have to run. It's terrible having to run a waiting list. Last year how we had to run a waiting list, and that was terrible because it meant that people who wanted to come couldn't come, and then some people who were booked in to come didn't come, and then you sort of have all these regrets. Why didn't you open it more? And it was because of the size of the group. So we needed We need a venue that's big enough to allow for the fact that there might be some people, that everybody who wants to come can come.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So we're having to hire some larger venues as a result. The venue here was nearly £1,900. What's that in Australia? About $3,800 for the venue.
For 4 days,
It's for 3 days plus a bit of setup.
Oh, actually, yeah, it's 3.5 days.
Yeah, 3.5 days.
3.5.
What we found on the setup day was that half a day isn't probably long enough with our new tech. That's about the price. It depends on the country. In Portugal, it's actually 10,000, right, Australian.
It's a very grand...
It's a 400-seat venue. But it's 10,000. In America, it depends where you go. Some places are like, some of them are trying to charge us $20,000 US a day. So getting one that's reasonable. We finished up getting one. I think it was around a similar price, Australian, about $4,500, something like that. But by the time you add up all the venues on a trip, you're talking 25 to 30,000 Australian dollars just for the venues. Last year we had more venues, but they were smaller, so it ended up similar price. The equipment that we travel with is around about $70,000 of equipment, which we have to insure every time we travel, and also we can't have to do the carnet every time we travel. Insurance and carnet costs us $6,000 every time we travel, right? So every time we go overseas, that's the price of those. So the equipment we've already owned now. We because of David's donation, we bought this new equipment. We only got the cameras like a week before we travelled, or a week and a half before we travelled. We did 5 iterations of cameras, and we had to send ones back and everything, and it became a huge palaver. And we ended up losing enough to buy a car from all of where they wouldn't give the money back and all sorts of things. Anyway, it was all a bit of a mess, and we still are owed like $4,000 from FedEx and a lot of other things that they won't give us back. And
they might.
They might. But there was a lot of things that went wrong with all that. But we wanted to get a solution, so we did. We got a solution. It's a good solution. So the equipment itself costs $70,000. That's not a problem. It's all paid for. What's the problem is the fact you're always paying every year to transport it. So that's around, every trip that's around, I'm running out there.
Oh, there's the black there.
It's one gone. It's around about $6,000 every time we travel. Then, of course, what happened was, because there was a lot of equipment that we could not travel with, we had to buy it in every country we went to. So that became a bit tricky. So we now have speakers. These speakers are ours, or not ours, that were donated by you guys, some of you. And we have these same speakers in 2 places in the USA and here, as well as in Australia at the moment. But we do still need them in Portugal. But we don't need them this time in Portugal because our venue has decent speakers. But we need to, and all the stands they're on, we can't travel with those, obviously. These stands that the cameras are on, we can't travel with those. We made those mounts. I designed those mounts and built them. They're all welded mounts. They had to go to every country. We ended up sending it costs about $1,000 per country for the mail, without the gear, included in that. The gear itself, we spent nearly $5,000 per country this trip to get the gear there before us. And we've just managed to get it here for this. We almost didn't get it here for this one, but the others have all now arrived as well. So there's another thing I should put on this list. Obviously, there's the books. The books as well. The pageant messages, which we want to start giving away for free as well. So there's the flights. On the average, the flights are costing us around $20,000 every trip. This time they cost us $12,000 for the round the worlds, and Portugal was another $4,000, and then we still haven't sorted out.
No, that's all.
Oh, that's all. 16 grand they cost us this time because we're going to less places. Mm-hmm. Last year they cost us 28,000. So it's just in that figure. This year you can see 16 grand. $400 a night on a 100-night trip ends up being 40k. You can see it adds up, right? And it sort of gets pretty pricey. And sometimes we consider, we're spending a lot of money. But anyway, then we like what we found is that having our own autonomy is really good because it means we can go to people, visit them, we can go shopping when we need to. We're not bothering other people all the time to take us shopping and take us here and take us there. And it also saves us a lot of time, so we get more time to ourselves as well in the process. So this trip and future trips will be hiring vehicles unless someone loans a big enough vehicle. And we understand the more gear we have, the harder it is to get a loan vehicle from someone because, most vehicles are not big enough to carry it. So you sort of need a wagon. What do you call them here? Estate car or a van. Like an SUV.
SUVs are not very good, not very spacious. They're
a lot of SUVs sort of have all this fold down, seats and everything, and you end up not having a lot of space in them. At home we have just this old, 20-year-old, what's called I suppose you'd call here an estate wagon or something, and we use that most of the time. So transport ends up being, it's very unpredictable, to be honest. In Portugal, we got something for $800 for 3 weeks or whatever, and we're not sure what it's going to be like yet. But anyway, in Canada, they wanted to charge us $6,000 for 3 weeks for the car that we needed to carry everything. And so it ended up somebody loaned us one there, and that saves us a lot of money when people can loan us things. That does save us a lot of cash. Last year when we were travelling, if we had to get accommodation in Brussels, it's very pricey. But, Ivo and his family loaned us their house for that period, and that saves us, you can see, $400 a night right, on every trip. So, transport. So that starts adding up. On this trip, it's going to be close to about $16,000 for the transport in this trip. The food, it's not a major issue. Books, we've been buying them from the Church of the New Birth, which is somebody who owns the originals of the books that you have. And we originally were looking at buying them normally, and they were $45 each. And if you add up, we bought nearly 2,000 books at $45 each. That would have been $90,000.
But it wasn't.
No. So what happened was we managed to talk to them, and they made an arrangement, and we can get it at their publishing price. And that turned out to be $15 each. Significantly lower, right?
Yeah, so it was great that the church was willing to do that for us. Yeah.
So the books have cost us $15 each, and we bought 2,000 if you include the ones in Australia. So that's $30,000, isn't it? Yeah.
But of course, people have donated towards that.
Yes.
Project,
now,
as we mentioned.
People like Emma, who did donate towards it here, have donated towards it. Not everywhere. We've had most of them. Mary and I've bought.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. From the funds donated by David. So you can see by the time you add it all up, it gets up there, doesn't it? Yeah. 30, 40, 70, 86, 92, 100, and 8. Yeah, it's pretty high. And to be honest with you, we don't really know what to do about it, how much it costs. But we want to see you. So we're sort of putting a lot of our resources into these trips so that we can see you fundamentally. And any donations you give to us obviously help all that. So we would like to thank you for the donations, but I thought that we like to explain to you what happens with them as well. So, because a lot of times, like if we were travelling just as a holiday, it wouldn't be anywhere near like this. You can see that. But when you're travelling as doing it like as a sort of job, I suppose, we don't sort of see it as that, but you can see there's a lot of things that add up and it gets pretty high in cost for us. Now that's the equivalent of around about £60,000. Yeah, £50,000. You could say pretty much the same in euros, 50 or 60 in euros. In US dollars, it's very similar. Fortunately for our currency, when you donate something to us, we get sort of like double the value out of it. And what we've actually found is that it was cheaper for us to buy equipment in Australia and send it to England than it was for me to buy the exact same thing in England. So with the monitors that we bought, we had to buy 5 for each country.
One for each country.
1 for each country, 5 total. It was cheaper for us to buy it in Australia, package it up, send it, and including all the postage costs and all the palaver doing all of that and everything, it was still 30% cheaper than being in the country and buying it there.
Which shows you guys...
That should show you guys how much
here.
you're getting ripped off, to be frank, right, in terms of what's generally happening with your gear. Yeah. And it blew us away that was the case, actually.
It's the same with food, actually, guys.
Yeah.
Like, we pay the same numeric value of pounds as what we'd pay for the same item in Australia. But obviously, that's actually... You're paying twice,
Not only that, your items are smaller.
Yeah.
Like, there's less in them. Like, we're buying a kilogram for that same thing and you're buying 500 grams for the same
750
thing.
grams.
So it's like, when you work it all out, man, there's so many ways in which people are, like, they're eating away at your, like, at that value, leveraging you like a money system, really. Yeah, so... We get to see all those contrasts as well, travelling, which is very interesting. Yeah. Anyway, we wanted to let you know that, so you know what's available. So we have paid for, at this stage here, the venue, your donations have paid for, and about a third of the accommodation we got to pay for. So that means that's money we can put to the next trip, because we're already paid for it. Does that make sense? Because of the donation David gave us. So anything that can be paid for on this trip will be put towards the next trips. So then we come to what is the next trips? So this is what we're thinking of. So we're talking about it with our spirit friends, and there's a number of different places they would like us to go to. And so we had to sort of balance, what's our time, what's our energy levels, what's our, what's going on at home, what do we, what do we reasonably believe there's going to be funds to do. So what we've decided now is to sort of break up the trips into, instead of 4-month trips like we're doing this year, we're going to do 2-month trips a year. Does that make sense? And these 2-month trips will be like basically from Australia to a country region, like a continent, do 2 or 3 events at that continent, go home to Australia. And then out to another continent, do 2 or 3 things around that, go back home to Australia, that kind of thing. So what we're thinking is, I'm just trying to remember what our spirit friends were saying.
Do you want
help? Yeah?
Yeah, so 2026.
2026.
We should say a little bit as well that since our last trip, so we worked very hard up in the lead up to the last trip to get all of the sound equipment, to find a system for the sound equipment. Yep. Jesus in particular worked really hard on it. And then we got home and we started planning for this trip immediately. And as you know, it isn't that long, it hasn't even been...
6 months, was it, really?
Yeah, 6 or 7 months
for
since
us,
we
anyway.
saw you last.
Yep.
So we worked then on the video and finding new venues and everything. So we've actually had a very busy 18 months. And by the time we get home, almost...
And we also, in that time, cleaned up our entire studio, and that's now running as a venue.
Yeah.
As well. So
and
you'll see some videos of that soon.
Yes,
yeah.
So But all of that work that we've been putting in, getting the audio and video sorted out, and even the sending that Jesus was talking about, sending different bits of equipment around the world, is that we're trying to set it up so that we can sort of seamlessly go on these trips more easily in the future. So it's not such a big thing to organise, and we don't have to think about so many logistics every time.
Yeah.
So
Because it's the planning that eats away your time. It is months of your time.
Yeah. And we're still really looking for venues and accommodation in each continent, if you like, that we can just reuse. Because once we have those, then it becomes very easy to plan a trip.
We can book them while we're there even, yeah.
Book and pay for them almost the year before for the next year. So, but we're still in this infancy. We'd like to keep doing this for many years, depending on how the world climate goes. The environmental climate and the political climate, I mean.
Particularly the political.
The political one, but for the next couple of years, we're going to try a few new locations. So in 2026, in August, September, Germany, France and Portugal. So obviously we haven't presented in Germany or France
This
before.
Is it their spring or their...
Autumn, or their autumn.
Your August, September. That's your...
Late summer, early autumn.
Your autumn, yeah. So it'll be August, September probably, is what we're thinking. It may flow in be half August to October or something like that.
The tricky thing, we try to travel in the warmer months, obviously, and so last time we were in your spring into summer, kind of,
summer. We were in there summer completely.
But earlier in the year, weren't we?
No,
we were later in the
July,
year.
yeah.
Sorry, later in the year. And this time we moved it earlier into the summer. But
which was a bit of a mistake.
It puts us really in the peak tourist season everywhere we go. So it actually bumps the prices of the accommodation.
Which hit our accommodation,
So we're trying now to kind of go in the mid-seasons. So we hopefully avoid snow and ice, but we also...
avoid the prices a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit cheaper, hopefully. So that's in...
2026, August, September.
And then in 2027...
so now we're talking April, May.
April, May.
Which is your spring.
Okay. And we start in the
we're
North
not coming
American
to you.
continent, or the Americas. So
it'll be North America. So we're talking...
Canada.
2 times places in Canada is what we're thinking. Vancouver, and so Vancouver, and
Nova Scotia,
near Halifax, and then down to North Carolina in the USA,
and potentially our spirit. We'll see. We might be invited further south as well. We'll see.
So we might end up in South America somewhere.
So that's in April and May, and then in August. So we'd go home again, and then in August, September.
So same year, August, September.
Come back to the UK.
So UK, Ireland,
and Sweden.
And the general pattern is 3 places, home, 3 places, home, that kind of thing.
So that's our desire. We'll see if it pulls off.
Now, the reason why we want to do that is that we find that coming to England, a lot of people in Europe think you're too expensive. And many of you who come from Europe probably think England is too expensive. And so we find a lot of people just don't come because they don't have the funds to justify accommodation when they're here. And so this is why we're sort of swapping it around a bit, so we're partly in Europe. And I wouldn't say Europe is necessarily very cheaper. I don't find it very much cheaper than here in England anyway. But obviously others do. Bearing in mind their homes are there, so they don't have to pay for accommodation. So So of course we're trying to sort of go to where people are accommodated where they already have their own accommodation, so they don't have to hire accommodation basically. But that requires then going to different countries and then each year missing certain countries. So what we're going to try to do is have sort of 18-month cycle where you've got sort of like Europe as like mainland Europe as
Southern Europe sort of thing.
Yeah, and then you got North America, and then you've got England, Ireland, and Sweden, sort of like Scandinavia and the UK
Northern Europe
type of area. And we probably try to, if we can, keep that cycle going for at least 2 lots of 18-month periods if we can. That's the idea. And if we do that, we should also, we'll have eventually, see what's happened with the equipment that we sent to Portugal is we'll probably relocate it to France. And so that means now we don't have to buy equipment in 3 places. We can just use the equipment that we've got and travel to those places. So that means less equipment costs. And also in Europe, there's no carnet requirements for that equipment. So once you're there, we don't have to pay extra to shift it all around. We can just hire a little van or something, chuck it all in, go to the next location. Between UK and Ireland, we can do the same, actually. Because you've got ferries between the two, we can go UK, Ireland, and use the same equipment. So all this equipment that you see here, the speakers and everything, we're not going to buy another set for that for Ireland. We're just going to transport it there. Yeah. And we were thinking of trying to transport it to Sweden, but it gets a bit hard, so we've got to sort something out for equipment in Sweden or in Scandinavia. In America, it's the same. We are thinking of shifting equipment that we currently have in California and moving that to Canada, but it will have to be one side of Canada or the other side of Canada. Obviously, I don't know if you know much about Canada, but it's a pretty big place. And it's about an 8-hour flight to get from one end to the other. And so moving all the gear by car over that distance is like, that's a 5-day trip on the road. Now, Mary and I are not averse to road trips. We like them quite a lot. But it can waste a lot of, like 10 days, it would waste of time that we really don't have. So that's why we'd have to fly it. So we're thinking at this stage we'll have North Carolina, we've got equipment there already. And Canada, in one place, we haven't got a full kit, but we can move the kit from America to Canada in one place, but we'll have to hire at the other places there. When I say hire, it's really only feasible in big cities, so it'll be probably Vancouver. The small places, we find, just don't have the equipment, so you can't really hire it. So that's our plan. Any questions? Want to ask? Microphone, we'll do the mic so people can hear. Yeah, keep your hand up. Sometimes it's easier just to pass down the road. Maxine.
I was just wondering if it would be cheaper if instead of having August, September, you had September, October, because that's like prime costs over here because it's like our summer holidays. Yeah,
although we've found here the venues are more free in your summer because nobody wants to use them then. So it's sort of like
a bit of a juggle there.
A bit of a juggle between accommodation and venues in terms of what's available, what's not available. When we come in your summer, we can use university venues. If we don't come in summer, they're not available to us.
Yeah. Cool. But you're right, Val, it might end up being more September, October.
It might be more September, October.
Yeah.
Whatever's your best deal, eh?
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go. But there's a sort of a balance, particularly we're finding here, and probably potentially in Portugal. And in the end, we might even be in Canada with venues like university venues too. And we have to get there at a certain time in order to use them. Yeah. We'll start, Julie, and we'll walk across.
Do you know where in France or Germany it will be?
We're thinking right in the middle of Germany.
Okay.
So near where Charlotte is currently.
I can help you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Right in the middle of Germany. It's like about 400 k's from anywhere in Germany, isn't it? Right in the middle. Yeah, right from the edge to about the middle is about 800 k's long. It's about halfway. So, and also France, people in France, particularly on the east side of France, can easily get there as well. It'll be just as long there. And also people from other Baltic, is it Baltic countries can come relatively easy too to that location. So yeah, we're thinking middle Germany. France, we're thinking either near where Nicholas lives, which is sort of like half down from Paris to Marseille. But sorry? Yep. And then we've also been invited to go near Marseille. There's a place there that they have like I suppose it's like a small hotel.
Yeah.
And it's a venue that's...
Like a retreat/hotel.
Yeah, and there's a venue that we've been invited to which is gifted to us. So that means we don't have a venue cost. So we're also considering there. So if we find ourselves in venues where we don't have to pay for the venue, then it's fantastic, isn't it? Because it saves on all the costs as well. Mm-hmm. In Portugal, probably back near Villarreal, where we go this time. Yeah.
See how it goes this year.
See how it goes this year.
Yeah.
We're not certain how it goes. Sweden, it will be in the Arctic Circle. It'll be
right up north.
Right up north.
Again, because we're invited. There's
Eva and Per, who own this 1,000 acre property in the Arctic Circle in Sweden. They bought it because they wanted it to become a learning centre, and they have these. There's this little school, I think it is, on there.
It's an abandoned school.
It's an abandoned school on their property.
They have a couple of houses and a big barn and an abandoned school.
So it means there that we will have no accommodation probably to pay for. And also a venue. And also you who come get to see north of the Arctic Circle.
Obviously, it's at that time of year, it's not icy or anything.
That time of year it should be still. Well, there might be snow, but it won't be too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of mosquitoes. We went there once in summer.
You have to come prepared for mosquitoes. Yeah. They carry you away. I'm not far from exaggerating, actually. It's pretty bad. It's like thick around you, like mosquitoes. Yeah. And also, like, obviously, large 1,000 acre property, you get to see what it's like north of the Arctic Circle up there, and it's quite interesting,
it's
actually.
Really nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And
the nearby town Wilhelmina is called, does have accommodation options. So that means that it's not too far. It's about 20 kilometres from Wilhelmina.
But Eva and Per, who are our hosts there, are very excited about hosting. Yeah,
everyone. And also they're looking at like bunking or whatever.
Yeah, looking at ways to transport you there and get you back. And how can everyone stay? So,
we're discussing that with them when we catch up with them in Portugal.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Alicia, did you?
So even though they're way up in the north of Sweden, could the equipment from 2026 in Germany, could that go by ferry to Sweden? I don't know if there's ferries,
but it depends. There's a lot of problems moving equipment over borders that are not a part of Europe.
The EU.
Yeah, so Sweden's not a part of the EU.
Is it now?
Well, it's not really from a customs border control perspective. And so what happens is that they have a separate carnet requirements.
Did you check it?
I'm pretty sure that's the case, yeah. And they have separate carnet requirements, they have separate border control requirements. And when you're doing this with this kind of equipment, you can't send it. you can't transport it via freight because you need to package it in such a way that it doesn't get damaged. And if it gets damaged, then it's had it when it arrives. So you'd have to take it. You'd have to have someone take it.
If someone was willing to transport it, it's doable.
Yeah, it's doable.
Yeah.
If someone's willing to get in a van, drive it from France to Sweden, which you can actually do now. I think there's a bridge now that goes over from, is it Denmark to Norway or Denmark to Sweden? Yeah. And so you can actually drive it, and if you can, like if someone was willing to grab in a van and do that, then we wouldn't need to buy anything.
Okay. My next question was, so in all of that, are you also thinking of some of the people from God's Way coming along with you?
Well, obviously we'd like that to happen. Yeah. And we are considering that particularly in Sweden because there is Eva and Per's property where we can do things and we can do some programs, right? And but that does depend upon what funds they have. Does that make sense? And every
the people
time,
in God's Way.
Every time you add a person, you're adding their flight, their accommodation, their travel, their, everything. So the reason why Mary and I don't travel with anyone now is because we don't have enough funds to validate somebody else travelling, handling all that. Does it make sense? But in the future, we're hopeful that might happen, and then yes, we'd have a little team. Some of them would follow after us, and we could do presentations and whatever, and then they do their stuff as well. Yeah, like little God's Way programs, and some of them we can do outside if we have a property to do it on, and some of it you can do inside, like the bum wipes and everything. I keep calling them bum wipes, but I'm told I shouldn't be doing that. Down under wipes, they want to be called. Yeah. And
also, what plans do you have organised between coming back, between living here and going back to?
Back in Australia, we'll be running fairly constant stuff at our place.
In presentations.
We'll do
presentations. We've got a seminar booked 2 weeks after we get home, I think.
2 weeks after we get back.
In Mergen, and then we'll do regular stuff in the studio, presenting.
So the studio can handle 50 people. Anything larger than that, we have to go to a venue. Yeah. And in one of the local towns, we've got a venue that's bigger than this. It's probably, much more suitable actually than this is. It's got a fairly large stage, 200-seat auditorium, air conditioned, so when it gets hot, it's still okay in there. It has a nice cafeteria area where everybody can bring their meal, plenty of toilets, no cost parking, everything. And they give that to us at a quarter of their normal rate. So it costs us I think it's $250 a day. Yeah. Australian, which is like £120 a day to hire that venue. So whenever we want to go above the 50, we hire that venue locally. And we're also thinking we might do a bit of a road trip, Mary and I, south as well each year. But there's also in amongst all this, every time we go out, we'll be visiting Perth in Australia as well. So Perth gets, because Perth is our exit point, it's going to be Perth, most probably, as a part of that. So we get to see the other side of Australia as well.
But also, when we go home, there's lots of projects. So we're working on our own publication of the Paget messages, and we're also working towards creating our own books on certain subjects.
Where Mary and I write the books.
Along with that, we're still very involved in God's Way, so helping God's Way to set up an office in our Divine Truth studio. Yep. And Jesus has a lot of, he's the systems administrator for both God's Way and Divine Truth, so he does a lot of the work with the data.
So I look after 20 servers, whether I'm away or at home.
Yeah.
That's part of my job for God's Way.
Yeah. and along with that, just managing a lot of God's Way projects and mentoring the directors. So we spend a lot of time with them on how to manage, how to lead, those kinds of things.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's about 50 other projects that I
normally design every project from the beginning. So and every building project I design generally.
You would have seen at the back, if you had a look, we're starting the food production project in Australia, which is exciting. The terrace project is ongoing, but which is about the environmental regen. But now we want to really perfect food production techniques.
Yeah.
And
so what we're doing first is building the soil. We have a 3-year program building the soil, and then we'll start food production.
Yeah, and we really need to look at housing as well. We're sort of being out-housed in our little house because the studio is now being used as sort of a full-time venue, as well as the God's Way office is sort of... So we don't have offices in the studio anymore. They're back in our house, which takes up almost half our house. So we're trying to...
So we've got a little 2-bedroom home, but half of it's an office already. And
so we're looking at trying to
get ourselves out of the house.
Somehow.
Somehow.
Using some experimental building things. So
Yeah.
they're all things that we're still got going on in the back burner.
Yeah. Our goal is to gift our property to God's Way in the end. So that way the property Mary and I own, we don't own anymore and God's Way owns it. But at this stage, they're not ready to handle the costs of that. So Mary and I handle all the costs of that. And so until God's Way is able to handle the costs of that, we still need to own it and look after it and make sure that the costs are covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good? Anyone else?
At the back.
That's it? No?
How long in each venue? Like, will it be the same format as, like, we would come for 3 days?
We're still considering. In Sweden we have the opportunity to stay there a bit longer, so we might actually do something like a 5-day event there, and also might make it more like an assistance group to help you.
Theme that we cover.
Yeah. In other countries, mostly yes, it would be a 4-day hire for us, 1 day set up, 3-day event, but we want to make sure that every time we have some social occasions with you. So what we're trying to arrange is that the week after our events, given circumstances and situation, we're hoping to have like we want to do with you Wednesday. We go for a walk, have a chat in the afternoon, more informal setting. Still a bit recorded, so you get a benefit from it and other people get a benefit from it, but more relaxed setting. Where people can we find people in a group setting like this are not themselves a lot, but when you get in a more relaxed setting, they're more themselves. And so we're trying to we want to do that at every location. Yep. And mostly it's like that because we're sort of limited by time because you got 2.5 months, and then got to go anyway. So you've got to be circumspect for us. We also have to be a bit circumspect about health and stuff because, when you're travelling, you got lots of people with lots of bugs travelling with you, and you're yourself not getting any sleep
and not always able to feel your feelings.
Not always able to feel your feelings, so you're prone to picking up things. So we also need to make sure we take care of ourselves when we're on a trip.
Yeah, and we're still feeling it out is probably the full answer. It depends a lot on the cost of the venue, the time we have available in each location. Last year I just scheduled us. It was too much.
Mary is a taskmaster.
Let's do it. This year, you will have noticed it's a lot more relaxed, and already we feel a lot more relaxed. This is our first event, obviously, but we'll see how it goes. And we also want to be more creative, so to not just do these kinds of events, but have more social time and see how people find that, how they respond to that, as well as potentially, say, when we don't have accommodation and venue costs, we can potentially stay a little longer and do something over a period of 4 or 5 days, maybe spread out over 7 days. So people come for a week, and then we can follow a theme with them and get to know them, and them get to know us a bit as well.
So one of the things we try to be mindful of is your cost getting to a place as well. So if we can pay more money ourselves, but you end up with less money having to be forked out yourselves, we see that as a good win. Because you haven't got 100 people forking out the cash to get there. You got one, couple forking out the cash to get there. Well,
because it's like us coming to see 100 of you here is a lot less overall cost than each of you individually flying to Australia and staying for a week and paying accommodation, paying your flights. Actually, the total expenditure, even though it seems a lot that we've just explained, is actually less than you all doing that. So we're always having that equation.
So we're weighing up what will it cost you if you had to come to us versus what does it cost us to come to you type of thing. And we're trying to make it so that it's a lot easier for you to get to where we are rather than, honestly, trip to Australia, any of you done it? How have you found it? It's pretty harsh.
It's a long way.
It's pretty harsh on the body. Our trips each time we come to Europe or America, it's fundamentally a 17-hour flight. We don't sleep generally for 2 days straight, sometimes 3. We need a bit of recovery time when we arrive in the place. And that's why when we came here the first week we were here, what we find is we're starting to get used to the idea now. And so what we find is if you stay awake the whole day you arrive in the morning early, because all the flights are overnight, and you stay in a whole day alive, where you're awake. You might not appear to be awake, but you're awake. And then you hit the sack, 6 to 7 p.m. You can often sleep for 12 hours. And then what we try to do is sleep again in the afternoon the following day. And by then we're pretty much right, But if we don't get that, then it's pretty harsh. Spend a few days. We also have found that going with the rotation of the Earth is actually a lot easier on you than going against it. So on the American trip, we'll be going, and on the way home, we're going against it. So we need some recovery time home. This year we're going all around the world, so we're going with the Earth rotation all the way around. So it's often not bad even when we get home. But with these trips, we'll be going there with the rotation back home for Europe without the rotation, and that usually is harder. That's why many of you have found when you come to us, the first few days are feel pretty tired, and you feel like you want to get up at 6 o'clock at night rather than go to bed then and all that. It takes a few days to get used to it. Nelly? I think I know.
Yeah, me too.
How do you see the future for sharing divine truth in the southern hemisphere?
Yeah, we're very open to it, Nelly. We're thinking when we do the North American trip, we can sort of take away one of the locations in Canada and come south to Brazil or something.
Do you have groups there? I don't know.
It really depends on people's desire.
Yeah, and also to a degree how much you share it.
Yep.
Last time, there was one time we went where it's interesting in Brazil in particular, because one time we went there was 80 people in our first group, something like that. They got very offended with my discussion with them about reincarnation, and the very next group we had 7 people. So then you start questioning, is it worth going to a whole country if only 7 people?
But some of that was based on the attractions of the person who invited us.
Yeah.
And so the more that you develop in your relationship with God, that changes your attractions and the people who are attracted to the event.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
you know how a lot of people in Brazil are sort of attracted to New Age type teachings. If the person who's organising it is attracted to New Age teachings, we're going to find we'll go there, The first day will be fine. After that, they'll get angry, and then generally they don't rock up even to the second day or the third day. Does that make sense? But if you're attracted to God and a relationship with God, you'll find that people you talk to will be attracted to God too. And then when we go there, those people, even if it's only 20, they'll stick around for the whole discussion. They'll love it. Yeah.
And how do we handle the language?
We need a translator in Brazil at the moment. Mary knows Portuguese, sort of. I don't at all. I find the language very, very difficult to even understand.
You're a bit
I'm sort of like, and
blocked to languages.
Yeah, I'm sort of a bit annoyed with languages, to be honest.
You got to feel your emotions.
I got to feel my emotions about it. I sort of feel languages were created by humans to create barriers, and that was the purpose of them. The primary purpose when they were first created was to create barriers. So all what people believe are culture, a part of my culture, is really about creating a barrier to other cultures. And I don't agree with all that. So I would love that we just chose a language like Spanish or English or something and just said, right, from now on we're teaching all of our kids in the entire world that language, and not worry about the whole concept of culture and language being lost and all these other things. If you want to learn another language, we'll go ahead. But to unify the world, part of unifying it practically is going to be all speaking the same language. Yep, and all seeing that all of us are brothers and sisters. You know, in the celestial heavens, you don't sort of speak a language. Your communication is all thought-based communication. You actually hear the voices of other people inside of you. And so I've not spoken, until I come back again. We didn't speak a language for nearly 1900 years or so. And I do find it very divisive. So I have some emotions to feel about it.
Have you watched the old videos where we did it with a translator?
Yes, I did.
It's difficult.
Yeah. No, but I've been preparing for your coming, so I've been translating some of the outlines of your groups.
Yeah.
And when receiving the pageant messages here, I looked for Portuguese versions of it, but I didn't find it.
No, there aren't any, I don't think.
So maybe I can start translating that.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. I don't think there is any. There are Spanish versions of the
messages, yeah.
Messages, I think, but I don't think there is any in Portuguese. The other thing that can be done, if you show people the videos associated with our last visit, because there are some, or the audios at least, then the people who believe in reincarnation, they're going to get confronted. The people who don't believe in God, they're going to get confronted, because we talk about God, reincarnation and so forth. And that will help sort out who's sincere and who isn't. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Hannah?
It's not really a question, but I realise we're coming to the end. And I know you made a list of everything that you guys have had to organise for this event, and you briefly mentioned the time you've put in. But I just really want to express, I've seen a bit of behind the scenes of what it took to arrange videos in every country, and it's just extraordinary, the amount of effort you guys go to share this with us.
Yeah.
And also what's even more extraordinary is the way you treat us all, and everyone in the venue, all the spirits that come to speak to you. And I just want to express my deepest gratitude.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Thank you. You know, obviously Mary and I love what we do. So for us it's not really a job, but we do have to manage our personal time to a degree, because otherwise you just get tired with all the things you're doing, you know. To get here, I think I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 months.
We don't want to repeat that.
We don't want to repeat that. I didn't get any time for myself. I was hoping to get some right at the end, but as it turned out, the second to last group of cameras wouldn't work, in the sense that it was too complicated for someone other than myself to operate. They were all proper cameras, lenses and everything had to be operated and so forth. And it was all just going to be too hard to teach somebody to do it. And so we had to discard that. There was about 20 grand we spent on them that we had to just sort of discard. And And we tried PTZ cameras. You ever heard of them? Point where they pan, tilt, zoom, and you can automatically control them. They were too hard to. There were lots of problems with them. All of them had cooling problems and issues, and they dropped out after hours of operation. I had to test some of them for up to 8 hours just to make sure that they would run an event. So we do a lot of things like that, testing, making sure that everything will last. When we were in Portugal last, we were in a venue that was 34 degrees inside, and you got to be careful with the equipment, because if it overheats, it just drops out and you lose everything. So we had to make sure that they can handle the heat, the cold, all that kind of stuff. And you can't really trust suppliers to tell you the facts about that. A lot of them, as these guys know, bought cameras. A lot of them say, "Oh yeah, they'll do video, but they only do 30 minutes." And for us, that would be totally impractical, me getting up every 30 minutes and changing the cameras or whatever. So we had to find a solution that would work in the long term. And also these cameras that we finished up with, we had to find a zoom length that was quite long, because in Portugal, the venue we got there, which is the kind of venues where we're sort of aiming for years down the track, it's a long, the cameras are a long way away from the stage. So I had to get enough zoom to be able to zoom right in on the stage, even though I'm a long way away from the stage. And so we had to get cameras with a 24 times zoom on them as well to allow for that. Now, in a lens, 24 times zoom is not even possible. I found lenses that were possible with Micro Four Thirds, it's called, that would allowed you to go 16 times zoom, but not 24 times zoom. So it sort of like that forced some decisions in the long run, and so we ended up with what we've got, which are actually turning out. This is the first time we've used them, and they're turning out to be easy to use.
Yeah, very good.
So it's good. But yes, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but we do love it,
Yeah.
and we treasure these times that we get to have with everyone. All the audience.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for the majority of people here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we sort of feel like we'd like to get the tech out of the way, like was our treatment of this trip. Get the tech out of the way, we can spend more time with you guys.
We can relax more.
We can relax a bit more, spend a bit more time. Ideally, if we had a tech person, we'd just say, do our tech.
But we would respect a lot what they do, because
we've done
it.
We know what it is. Yeah. And the more somebody else can do all that stuff, the more obviously time we can spend with you. Like here in these groups, it's hard afterwards because we've got so much to do in the evenings and everything that we've got to get home at a reasonable hour to be ready for the next day. And even then, like, we're getting 4 to 5.5 hours sleep while we're doing these groups each night. Because we wake up at around 4:30, and we're going to bed about 10:30, and so you don't get a lot of sleep. And then so like tomorrow, this is why we can't do things with you tomorrow, because tomorrow afternoon we're sleeping.
Yeah. Catch up.
We need to catch up. Yeah, that kind of thing. So we've got to make sure we balance our love of self with loving you guys as well.
And also, what I notice is that these events we love doing them. We feel like it's a gift to share God's truth. But
we feel like it's a gift to us too.
It's opportunity.
We get to enjoy all this stuff.
Exactly. We love talking about this, and you guys are crazy enough to come and listen for 3 days straight. If there was 3 of you, we'd just bore the 3 of you with it. But we love that you love it too. And also, I can see that it offers you guys opportunities to love as well. To love each other and to love the venue, and they're all great things to create. We love creating opportunities. It's something God does for each and every one of us. Every moment creates opportunities. And,
Obviously, it'd be nice to work towards like a God's Way thing, but in Europe or something like that.
Having a purpose-built venue. Wow, that would be
But
amazing.
that requires spiritual development on the part of the people who are going to be looking after it when we're not there. And that is what is missing. people who have received God's love to the point where we know that they are on the same page that we are with it. And that's going to take some time to happen. So we're not thinking it's going to happen in the next 5 years, and maybe not even in the next 10. Yeah. Also, you guys, you're going to face some hard times over the next 10 years, don't you? It's pretty clear, isn't it, that the world is becoming a bit more violent when it comes between the relationship between nations, isn't it? And I think you can sort of see the writing on the wall, can't you, to a degree, that there are going to be some hard times ahead. So the way to deal with hard times is to work through your emotions about it now. Because by the time you get there, you'll be able to be loving, and you'll be able to be loving to yourselves and also to others, and that's going to help the situations.
It'll help create safety, and it'll help create more harmony.
Yeah.
Not just for yourself, but for others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's you said something to me the other day about if you're putting in the work every day, well, when the pressure comes on, it's not anything more to just keep doing the work that day.
Yeah.
So, but if you wait for the pressure to come on, then it feels like a big deal to have to feel about it
and to deal with things.
Yeah.
So we're also being quite judicious about where we might select locations, because we are factoring into the fact that we don't want to lead people to locations only to find that there's a war there, or only to find that there's other problems like food supply problems there or something like that, which makes it difficult to live or survive. So we've got to be judicious about recommendations we give about where we're going to end up, So at this stage, our thinking is at the moment somewhere in Europe, it'll be Sweden plus somewhere in Portugal or western Spain, somewhere in that region, is where the long term we feel there's going to probably be a centre or something like that. In Canada, we're hopeful that it will be probably somewhere in Nova Scotia or in New Brunswick. In the USA, we're hopeful at some point in the future that it will be probably somewhere in North Carolina, Tennessee. But we're uncertain at this stage, given the climate. The climate in America is degrading quite rapidly, as I think it's quite obvious to see if you're an outsider from there. And the climate in other countries, here on the Eastern Europe, is degrading quite rapidly. So there's going to be issues faced there, and so we don't want to although we'd like to be there, we don't want to go there only to find that we encourage people to go there only to find that there's problems down the track. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's our thinking. Yeah. Subject to change with or without notice. Yeah. What we found in Australia is that it does take a lot of effort to find the people. Not like there's people who are willing to donate things. Like the property or the location is not a problem. It's people of the right development that is the issue with making something that's going to last. Yeah.
And primary in that development is putting your relationship with God first in your life.
Yeah.
And you've really given us the tools to do that this weekend, physically and spiritually.
Yeah, and the whole trip we were going to be focusing on this, like helping people have the tools to develop their relationship with God. And we feel that a lot of things we imagine can happen are not possible to happen without that. There needs to be people who love God and want to receive God's love and want to grow in love themselves. There needs to be that in order for true change to occur, and in order for anything that we do to be reliable. Yep. And we can't. A lot of the things that we'd like to do now, we still can't do because we haven't got enough of those people yet. Yeah.
It just feels like the opportunity that's in front of us is like one in billions and billions of chance.
Many of you don't realise that.
No, it's wild.
See, at the moment, us being Jesus and Mary is not real to most of you, right? It's sort of like we're like
something you watch.
Like a disastrous TV show happening right in front of you.
Reality TV.
And many of you look upon that sort of like a light of study versus microscope sort of study versus a bit of fascination with the whole concept without really understanding the potential. You follow? And it was the same for me in the first century, to be honest. Like, it took people many, many years to understand that what I was teaching was the truth, and also that I was the promised Messiah that came at the time, you know. And it took them many, many years to accept that, and many of them didn't accept that until after I died. But once they realised it, and particularly after I reappeared to them after I died, they realised it. For many of them, that's when it happened. And once they realised it, then they became like God first, you know, truth first, God first, love first. And what happened then was amazing. All of them started sharing it themselves without fear and without worry and with courage, to the point where they could be thrown in the arenas and be willing to die for it. You know, many of my brothers and sisters, after I perished, many of my brothers and sisters died in the Roman arenas, got ripped apart literally by lions. You know, but they had so much strength of knowing they would be alive still, and knowing that it was just a temporary pain, and knowing that it was sort of sharing the truth and living it was still worth it, even with all that oppression. And they handled it. And that's why 300 years later, Constantine said, we can't fight these Christians anymore. What we'll do instead is we'll manipulate and deceive them into something different.
Get power over them.
Yeah, and that's what he did. So instead of fighting them, they stopped all the arenas, they stopped all the oppression, they made Christianity the actual religion of the country, and then what they did was modify it all. Clever, eh?
Evil love.
Evil. Clever. Clever evil, but clever. And so what you get now is Christianity is obviously a very, very different thing than what was there. But they realised that the strength of the conviction in the hearts of the people who we taught, and the next generation, Mary taught until she died in France. And in the end, in about 1,000 years after Mary died, there was still over 1 million people in France practicing what she taught. Yeah? And they got the Roman Catholic Church at the time, knew about them, and they decided to get rid of them, and they exterminated them to the person. Yeah. Man, women, children, everybody. Yep. And so what Mary taught actually got rubbed out around about 1000 AD. Yeah. So we've seen this happen on earth, both of us obviously looking down and seeing all these things happen and seeing the courage of our brothers and sisters on earth who, because of their relationship with God, had that courage. Like, it's not something that it wasn't like an idea that they felt like they had to adhere to. They knew it to be true in their hearts, you know.
And the funny thing is, you studying us, trying to figure it out and trying to figure out if you should really believe, not realising that if you have your relationship with God, God will tell you.
Yeah.
It's
and
actually the quickest way to figure it out.
Yeah.
It'll all be solved. Yeah.
So I know I don't sort of match your ideal of Jesus. Sorry about that, but the ideal was created by someone else other than me. And
everyone's is different.
And everyone's is different, yeah. But the key part of what needs to be taken is the relationship with God. When you have it to the degree that you can feel God's love in you, and you get to the stage, by the time you're in probably the third sphere, once you've received enough love to be in that location, you start feeling like there's the potential of my immortality here. And even though you haven't reached the condition where you're conscious of your own immortality, you get to the stage where you can see a glimpse of it. And that gives you so much courage to face things, like in your society, in the world, and also to face them with love in your heart, Yeah. And to experience the benefit of that is immense. Like, at this stage, many of you don't yet grasp the level of peace and contentment that comes, the inner peace and contentment that comes from actually feeling the truth rather than just believing it. From actually feeling it as an experience. So I'm not saying creating emotions to feel it. I'm saying as an experience, actually feeling it, experiencing the truth as an experience. And that's what God wants. God wants us to have as much truth in our heart that it's now an experience that we have, no longer a thought or something that we try to do. It's now a personal experience that we're living. And once you get to that stage of your development, nobody can shake you. Nobody. No thing, no oppression, no relationship, nothing can shake you. You are utterly joined with God's mind on the subject. Yeah. And that's the opportunity God's giving us, to become joined with His feelings about it. And when you become joined with it, there's so many blessings of that joining, because you get to the point where you're literally conscious of the fact that you cannot, as a soul, die. Nobody can harm you permanently. And once you're there, you're not afraid of speaking up anymore. You're not afraid of saying you're in addiction. You're not afraid of saying, no, I'm not going to do that, even though under threat of death. You're not afraid of even seeing your loved one die because of you staying firm. Not even afraid of that. One of the biggest fears most people on the earth have is seeing their children die because of the parents' actions. And this is why when people threaten your children, you often bend into a certain type of behaviour. You're not afraid of that either. You know exactly what's going to happen to them if they pass. You're not afraid of it. You don't like the idea that they might experience violence or other things like that, but you're not afraid of it. Yeah. And this is like, there's that courage, conviction that comes along with that. But then there's also all of these immense blessings, like every person you meet, you'll feel like you know them just by feeling them. You won't have to even talk to them without knowing them. That's a huge thing. You can feel what they're thinking and actually know the thought. Like, that's like incredible, amazing blessing that comes from being in alignment with God. There's also things like you get to the stage where hardly anything on earth can make you unhappy. And you're not lonely anymore. You're confident you're going to meet the other half of you at some point. So why would you worry? You get to that point, where you don't even worry about that. All I got to do is embrace my passions and desires, and she'll come along, or he'll come along. He'll recognise me sooner or later, and he'll be there, or she will be there. And, there's just so many immense blessings that come along after your relationship with God is established. So that's why I'd like to encourage you to start with your desire for more love from God. Start with that. Put that first. We started a conversation in Mergen in Australia before we left about putting God first. And unfortunately, you're not going to see it because the cameras failed while we were having the conversation.
Have you heard it?
Some of you might have heard it.
You've got the audio.
Yeah. There will be some audio, but...
Yeah.
And so, but we want to continue that conversation too. What does that mean? What does that look like in your life, At this stage, many of you have tried to sort of merge divine truth into your current life. By now, many of you should have worked out that doesn't actually work. God's truth is going to cause you to create a new life that will bear no resemblance to the old one.
Which in a way is really exciting. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily feel exciting when you first start because you're so invested in all this stuff you created emotionally and physically. But you'll reach a point where you think, wow, I got through all that change and I'm actually happier. What's next? What are we changing next, God?
And things you were scared of before, you're excited by now. Yeah. Like many of you at the moment would be, like I said, scared about sharing what you feel or believe or with others, right? In a big setting, like 1,000 people. But imagine you've got someone in Portugal, they go to the Vila Real venue, 400-seat venue, and the whole place is packed listening to you, and you're pretty happy doing it, right? And then you go off to some other place and it's the same. That's the potential. But it requires us becoming more in alignment with God's love for that potential to be enacted and enabled. You're not going to do it through effort, through physical effort. It's not going to happen like that. A lot of people say to us, why don't you do this and why don't you do that and why don't you share more here and why don't you put it on that platform or why don't you do that? It's not our physical effort that's going to change anything here. It's the hearts of people that are going to change things. And what we've found, Mary and I teaching, is that watching videos does not change the heart of people. Videos, by the way, I should say, feel free to leave if you've got to catch a place or catch a plane or whatever.
Nearly 5,
yeah, well, I know it's nearly 5 and we've got to stop.
Yeah.
But it's the hearts of people that are going to change things.
Yeah. And surely you can feel when you come, it's a much different experience to when you watch and...
Yeah.
So while the videos can help to inspire you in our absence or prime you with information... And also
to reinforce things when you're not there, it can help like that. Just like the Paget messages will, the gift we've given you this trip, will help you do that too. At the end of the day, you need face-to-face with a person. What we're trying to do is replicate what happens in the spirit world. In the spirit world, when you want some help, you get a face-to-face personal interaction with somebody who can help you. When you want it.
You've got to want it.
You've got to want it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you want it, that's what you'll get. Right? And what we're trying to do is sort of replicate that. Because that's going to cause the most change. You know, any of you in business, who's been in business in their life, you know when you're in business, word of mouth is the most powerful thing. Yeah. Don't you? Yeah. Advertising any other way, marketing any other way, while it might work, it's not the most powerful thing. Word of mouth is. That's why nowadays they're all trying to get your word of mouth on a feedback thing, which is damn annoying, but you can understand why they're doing it. Because they know that your opinion is going to matter more than what they say, right? And this is the beautiful thing about your opinion, your feelings, your desires, is once you enable them and you really feel them, then that's going to have an impact on others. You know, more than anything else, the word of mouth is the thing that's going to have the impact. And that's how it works. Spirit world and here, it's a fundamental law. Face-to-face interaction with a person who understands some truth that's beyond what you know is the only way for you to progress. Beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. So that's what we'd like to encourage you. Remember, when you're reading the Paget messages, you're going to have some face-to-face interactions with some spirits. Right? And when I say face-to-face, you probably won't see them, but they'll be sitting there.
They'll be there. Yeah.
Right next to you. Right next to you. They'll see you easy enough. Yeah. And they'll want to influence you and talk to you and help you. And by reading them, you'll be very open then to listening or feeling some of their influences. Did someone just say you
shouldn't read them on the toilet then?
Or in the shower.
Or in the shower.
In the shower's a bit hard with paper, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we'd like in closing to remind you to do. Yeah? To realise this is not a self-improvement program in the traditional sense. This is a program helping you to become more loving. Not just to be happier in your personal life and meet more of your addictions. It's so that you become more loving. Not that you get more love, but you actually are capable of giving more. You understand? Many of us get focused on getting it, but when you receive love from God, you will be capable of giving more love, being more loving to others. That's going to have a powerful effect on them. When you're more loving, it has a powerful effect. So we've enjoyed your company. Thanks for your engagement.
We've loved it. Thanks for your participation and engagement.
Yeah.
We know we didn't get to talk to each of you individually, but we felt you guys. Yeah, it's lovely to feel you're here.
And to be honest, we feel that almost all the problems you can raise with us individually, if you truly apply what we've taught you this week, a lot of them will get solved. Yeah. So you don't need to worry so much about your individual problems and issues, because God knows them, and through God's love, God will expose everyone, show you the way through. And, you know, God's with you permanently. We're only going to be here for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we're off again to somewhere else. You know, we're not your solution to your problems. God is. So he can be with you permanently. He's an infinite being, able to be with every one of his children 100% of the time. Your entire life, he can be there. He's there at any time you desire him, but it has to be a pure, sincere, truthful, loving, honest desire. So what we're trying to help you do is become pure, sincere, loving, honest in your desires, so that you can experience the benefit of that relationship. Yep. Yeah. So hopefully that's what happens. We have hopes for you.
Hopes, but no expectations.
No expectations, just hope.
No pressure, just hope. And we'll see some of you in Portugal.
Yeah. How many are coming to Portugal? Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. We'll see you there. Huh?
We'll see you there, hey?
Yeah.
And those who we won't see there, hopefully we'll see you somewhere else.
Yeah, and there is room for the rest of you in Portugal.
Yeah, if you change your mind, not too late.
Yeah, there's plenty of room there.
Yeah.
Mind you, Yvette's been passing out leaflets and whatever.
She's our advertising
If any of them have any effect, there might be a full house. So we'll see. Yeah. Or we might be booted out of the venue. We don't really know which one might happen. So we'll see. We'll keep you informed.
We'll be flexible.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All
right, guys.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks
we're going to pack up now.
Again.
Thanks for your donations.
Yeah, can we just... the setup team... There's the setup team who was here Thursday. Could you... Anna just briefly wants to speak to you at the back before you go.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Catch you.